Hi, welcome to the Delaware Valley Workshop. Once again, I am doing a task I hate to do, ripping plywood on my knees. My shop is too small to rip a full-size sheet of plywood on the table saw or the floor of the shop, so I rip it outside here on the deck. Today's project is how I solve this problem to get off my knees and save my back.
Okay, the first thing we have to do, according to the plan that I made up on SketchUp here, is cut the overall length of the two long rails. The overall length is 75.5 inches. So I'm going to take my measuring tape, mark it out, and then cut it on the miter saw. As I said, we're going to lay it out at 75.5. So take my mark, 75.5 on this X. The same thing on this one, 75.5 X. Okay, now we're ready to cut it at the chop saw. Okay, now it's time to lay out the pieces that will go in between the boards. They're 9 inches apart from each other, so I'm going to start from the left and go to the right, marking the edge of the board and then writing the word cross. So my mark will be the first edge of the board, and then the next edge of the board, next edge of the board, next edge of the board. Again, the spacing's at 9 inches each, so it makes it pretty easy to figure out. So the first one is going to be at 9. Next one is at 18. Next one is 27, 36, 45, 54, and then 63. Once I have them marked off, I'm going to take my speed square and draw a square line across, cross, cross, and then I'll take my other board and make sure that they're aligned. Square, best I can, and transfer the measurements to the second board. We're making this out of construction lumber because it's an outside project. It's not fine furniture. It's going to have a pressure treated plywood top to keep it square, and I'm going to reinforce the cross members with dominoes and hopefully stay sturdy and straight for a long time. For my handy dandy sheet, I need 9 cross members at 33 inches. That makes the table 40 inches wide, allowing for 3.5, 3.5. That's 7 minus 40 is 33. So all my cross members should be 33 inches long. I'm not doing integral tenons, so I don't have to worry about that. I'm going to be using the domino, so I can make them the exact length they need. So I'm going to take the rest of my construction 2x4s and cut out 9 33-inch pieces. Okay, on my assembly table here, I've got the front and back rails set up and for the cross members. I'm planning on attaching these cross members to the rails using dominoes. So I've already marked the locations of the cross members on the rails, and now I need to mark some spots to put the dominoes so that they all line up. So we'll start that now. It really doesn't matter as long as, you know, both slots in the cross piece and the rail piece match. So I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this for all 9 cross members on both sides. And once I have the marks that I want, I'm going to be able to lay out for my I'm just going to do this 9 times 2, 18 times. So I'll probably spare you doing all of it. I'm just going to film a couple of me making the marks, and then when I come back, we're going to be ready to cut the dominoes. So I made this little assembly jig so I could put the dominoes in the ends of each 2x4 rather quickly. So what I've done is I've just taken the 2 rails, put one at the back and one on top, and 2 other pieces of 2x4 from the cutoffs to make a slot, and I plan to just one side in, domino it, pull it out, flip it over, domino it. And I have to do this for 9 boards and 4 domino slots per board. That's 36 times. So hopefully this jig will speed it up a little bit for me, just that I'm not doing dominoes for the rest of my life. Anyway, let's give it a shot. Okay, as you can see, I have all the mortises on the front and back rails cut out, and all of them in the sides, or the cross members, for all 9 cross members and these 2. So we're ready to glue in the mortises on one side of the rail and glue in the cross pieces on one side, and then put in the dominoes and glue on the other side, and we'll have our superstructure all built. So let's get started. Okay, it's time to glue in some dominoes. So I'm going to start with the front rail, and I'm going to put glue in all the slots. Do a couple slots at a time since there's 18 holes in each rail. So we'll just do a little. I'm using Type Bond 3 for outdoor projects because this will be outdoors. So I'm going to do the first half. Some glue in the slots. And then take some dominoes and
I sped this up since I didn't want to bore you with me banging dominoes for 5 minutes. But while I was filming it, I was talking, and what I was saying was that I'm using dominoes with the little slots cut into them so that the glue can squeeze around them when you're banging them in, so you don't have the hydraulic pressure keeping you from banging them in all the way. So I thought I'd do a little voiceover and point that fact out again.
it would be beneficial if I move as quickly as I can just to get some glue on the dominoes and get them assembled quickly so the glue doesn't have time to set up before I assemble them. So
here you see me being a complete dummy during the glue up. I wanted to be prepared, so I had numbered all the studs to the areas they went to, and then proceeded to mix up all the boards. So I'm searching for the numbers correctly, and I'm starting to panic because I got glue, I don't want it to set up, and things aren't going together as well as I'd like them to, and I had to use some persuasion on some. And basically this is just a montage telling you that if you're going to glue something up, get all your ducks in a row and be prepared, because you don't want to be like me searching for board number 3 when you're on slot number 5.
okay, so I'm going to try now to get this stuff all done. Hopefully align as quickly as possible. Let's see how we make out.
You can see I'm having a lot of difficulty getting the dominoes and the cross beams and the rail all to line up. I don't know what happened. I think something, the thing was racking, and I didn't have enough slop in my settings on my domino, and I just could not get them lined up. I ended up stopping the recording and redoing the dominoes a little bit better so that I could get it glued up.
Well, I got it all glued up. It was a monster. I barely had time to get it all clamped together before the glue set up, but I did it. So I'm going to let that sit in the clamps overnight. And then tomorrow we'll take a piece of pressure treated plywood, and it's already rough cut to a little bit bigger than 40 inches wide and 75.5 inches long. And I want to attach it to the top, and then the table surface will be done. Again, this is a project that's going to be used outdoors, so we're not going to have to worry about it getting rotting, and hopefully it will work well.
It's now the next morning, and I've attached the table superstructure to the side of the shed. The brackets are attached to the table and the shed and are ready to be pulled up and tested. Here's the table flipped up on top, and at the present time the brackets can handle the table superstructure. This is my way of foreshadowing that the next thing I put on it, the plywood top, creates enough weight to really wreck the brackets and they start bending and making all kinds of trouble. So I have to make a new solution. Okay, here's the table with the plywood on it. I'm going to screw it down. If you look carefully, you can already see the brackets are starting to give up the ghost. The table's starting to tilt. And as I continue to try to screw in more brackets, the tilt just gets worse and worse and worse. This is where I find out my knowledge of bracket ratings is less than sufficient.
Okay, now that I have to add some fold down legs to the table because the brackets can't support the cantilevered weight of the table for 40 inches. So my solution to this problem is to just put some legs on the corners that will fold out as I lift them up. So the height of the table is roughly 39.5 inches from the bottom of the deck. So I cut a couple pieces of 2x4 to 39.5, and then I'm going to take an additional half or inch off so that I can put in some leveling feet to make up for differences in the level of the deck. So we're going to do that now.
Here you see me drilling holes for the threaded inserts for the leveling feet so that I can adjust the table to make up for any variations in the decking outside. I know the deck is not completely and perfectly level, so I want to try to keep the table as sturdy and level as I can. Okay, we're under the table here. I'm trying to install the first flip bracket for the legs. Obviously, I'm having a little difficulty keeping the leg in position because there was nowhere to clamp it. So I proceed with just screwing the 2 screws into the table through the top of the bracket, and then I will attach the other end of the bracket to the leg. I then will proceed to put in all the screws after I've tested the flip and make sure everything is fastened down correctly. And then I'll move on to the second leg. Here I am installing the second leg. I've offset it, the width of the leg, because the legs are longer than the two, so that they'll flip up past each other. And then here I am going to test pulling the table up and having the legs flip out. I can use my feet to kick them straight and get them in the lock position. All in all, the flip legs work perfectly. The table's pretty strong and supportive, and I don't have to worry about it collapsing.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. I'd like to address a couple of items that may not be clear in the context of the video. Number 1, addressing the cantilever in the room. Thanks to the internet, I now know how load ratings are done with brackets. Most suggested that the table or the shelf needs to be supported at least 2/3 of the length for proper support. The table was 40 inches wide and the bracket was 18 inches long, so that obviously was a failure on my part. But adding the flip down legs worked like a treat and solved the problem. Number 2, the window AC unit. This video was filmed at the end of the summer where I live. Fall temperatures had just started to move in and the AC was not on. It gets removed soon, and next year it will be installed in the other window away from the table, so it won't suck up the dust from cutting plywood on the table. Number 3, the brackets themselves. They were attached to the structure's OSB sheathing and the studs behind it. I cut channels in the vinyl siding so the brackets would go up against the wooden structure. All the screws were driven into solid wooden studs.
Thank you for joining me on this journey. If you would like to continue to follow my efforts, please like and subscribe, and you will be notified when I release another project video. Please leave any feedback you have in the comments below. I have more videos planned, and they will get better and better as I learn and grow. If you like this video, I have linked some of my other videos, and you can click on them to check them out. Until next time, happy woodworking.